Arrival. The morning began like any other. Across the world, people hurried through traffic, children ran late for school, and traders watched numbers crawl across glowing screens. Life carried on in the chaos only humanity could call ordinary. Then the sky split open. At first, people thought it was a trick, some strange aurora, an astronomical event that would be explained by scientists on the evening news. But when the dark shapes grew larger, blotting out the sun in jagged silhouettes, the illusion shattered. Fleets of ships, massive, angular, bristling with weapons, hung over Earth's greatest cities. Every government scrambled at once. Fighter jets launched. Militaries were put on high alert. The United Nations called an emergency session. But before a human weapon could be fired, a voice thundered across every radio, every screen, every speaker system. People of Sol 3, you are claimed by the dominion of Zytheron. You will serve, resist, and you will perish. The voice was not human. It was laid, mechanical, dripping with arrogance. The Zytherons, conquerors of countless worlds, had arrived. Attempts at negotiation followed. Presidents, prime ministers, and generals sent transmissions begging for peace, offering dialogue. The reply was silence. And then, fire. The first bombardment struck with surgical precision. A column of blue-white energy lanced down from orbit, erasing a skyscraper in New York. Another beam flattened a military base in Russia. Beijing's skyline dissolved into ash within minutes. Panic spread faster than the destruction. Civilians screamed, fled, prayed, millions of voices rising in terror as the skies rained death. Human militaries fought back, but their weapons were toys against the invaders. Fighter jets barely scratched the alien shields before being swatted from the sky. Tanks fired in vain, their shells bouncing harmlessly from armored walkers that stalked through city streets. Communications broke down. Governments collapsed into chaos. And yet, amid the terror, sparks of defiance burned. In Karachi, a squadron of outdated jets managed a suicide run, slamming into a Zytheron troop carrier and bringing it crashing down in flames. In Warsaw, civilians threw Molotov cocktails at patrol drones, one catching fire and spiraling into the ground. In the mountains of Colorado, a scattered unit of U.S. soldiers refused orders to surrender, disappearing into the wilderness with stolen supplies. Humanity was losing. Everyone could see it. But humanity was not broken. In the ruins of Paris, beneath the shattered glass of a metro station, a group of survivors gathered, soldiers, doctors, engineers, civilians. One of them, blooded and weary, spoke what others felt but had not yet said aloud. They think we'll kneel. They don't understand. We don't kneel. A murmur of agreement spread through the huddled group. Not just agreement, conviction. The world was burning. Humanity's armies were shattered. But in the ashes, something unyielding had awakened. The Zytherons believed Earth would fall in weeks. What they did not know was that they had just declared war on the most dangerous species in the galaxy, one that refused to bow. And for the first time in their long history of conquest, the conquerors would learn what it meant to bleed. Occupation. The invasion ended not with a single battle, but with silence. Cities lay in ruins. Governments that had stood for centuries were reduced to smoldering embers. And above the wreckage, the Zytheron fleet remained, an iron canopy blotting out the stars. Occupation began swiftly. Alien command ships descended into capitals, disgorging soldiers that resembled towering reptiles clad in metallic exoskeletons. Their weapons pulsed with light, capable of cutting through concrete and steel alike. They spoke little, enforcing order through fear. Humanity's infrastructure was seized. Power grids, communication hubs, and transport networks fell under alien control. Labor camps rose overnight. Vast, barbed wire enclosures where entire neighborhoods were marched at gunpoint. Men, women, and children alike were branded with glowing marks that tracked their movements. Those who resisted were made examples. In New York, a father who struck a Zytheron overseer was executed publicly, his body left hanging in the square for days. In Cairo, 1,000 civilians were herded into a stadium and incinerated by orbital fire as punishment for sabotage. The message was clear. Resistance meant annihilation. And yet, resistance was exactly what grew. It began with whispers. Smuggled messages passed on scraps of paper, coded signals hidden in radio broadcasts, fragments of hope disguised as static. Scattered soldiers who had escaped the initial collapse linked with engineers, students, hackers, anyone willing to fight. In Berlin, a group of young programmers discovered a vulnerability in Zytheron comm systems, hijacking their broadcasts to flood the aliens' helmets with deafening static. In the Andes, farmers armed with old hunting rifles lured a patrol into a canyon and buried them beneath a rockslide. In the ruins of Tokyo, survivors tunneled into the subway, creating a hidden hub for a growing underground network. Every act was small, but each carried weight. The invaders had expected submission. What they found instead was defiance, chaotic, desperate, but unyielding. Then came the first true strike. In northern France, resistance cells united to ambush a Zytheron command outpost. With stolen explosives and makeshift weapons, they launched their attack in the dead of night. Dozens of humans fell, cut down by superior firepower, but the outpost collapsed in flames before reinforcements could arrive. For the first time since the invasion, alien corpses littered the ground beside human ones. News spread faster than fire. From the camps of Africa to the bombed-out ruins of North America, a single truth echoed: the Zytherons could bleed. In their arrogance, the aliens dismissed the attack as a nuisance, the thrashings of a doomed species. But in quiet rooms, far from the ears of their commanders, some Zytheron officers spoke of unease. This was not how other conquests had gone. By now, most species were broken, kneeling. Humanity, even shattered, fought like wolves. Beneath the rubble of Earth, the resistance had been born. It was not yet an army. Not yet. But it was enough to plant the seed of fear in the hearts of conquerors who had never known it before. The war for Earth was only beginning. Counterattack. Months passed beneath alien rule, but humanity did not break. The Zytherons had crushed nations, but they had unknowingly forged something far stronger: unity. Borders, once jealously guarded, became irrelevant. No longer Russians or Americans, Chinese or Brazilians. There were only humans, bound together by survival and vengeance. The resistance grew in shadow. Across deserts and jungles, in shattered cities and underground bunkers, cells spread like wildfire. Farmers became soldiers. Scientists became weaponsmiths. Hackers became tacticians. Every person had a role, and every role mattered. It began with stolen scraps. Pieces of alien rifles pried from cold claws. Shards of armor collected after skirmishes. Human engineers and scientists, sleepless in hidden labs, bent their minds to the task. And though their tools were primitive compared to Zytheron technology, they were clever. Within weeks, they produced hybrid weapons: assault rifles spitting lead wrapped in stolen plasma coils, drones cobbled together with human processors and alien guidance chips. Crude, unpredictable, but deadly. The Zytherons learned this in Nairobi. A convoy of armored walkers, thought invincible, was lured into a narrow street where resistance fighters detonated electromagnetic mines. The machines froze, their shields sputtering. From the rooftops, humans unleashed a storm of hybrid fire, tearing the walkers apart. The city echoed with cheers as alien wreckage burned. But humanity's true strength was not just its weapons. It was its mind. They turned the environment itself into a weapon. In Siberia, rebels lured patrols onto thin ice and drowned them beneath frozen rivers. In the jungles of South America, disease-ridden swamps became killing grounds, where Zytheron physiology faltered against Earth's microbes. In the deserts of the Middle East, resistance fighters buried charges beneath shifting sands, erasing entire columns of troops in a single thunderous blast. Psychological warfare followed. Hacked broadcasts played Earth's music, thundering drums, electric guitars, through the helmets of alien soldiers mid-battle. Propaganda graffiti appeared on alien-controlled walls: "We are still here." To creatures used to obedient slaves, humanity's defiance was incomprehensible. The resistance scored its first decisive victory in orbit. A captured supply shuttle, hijacked by a suicide team of astronauts and engineers, docked with a Zytheron destroyer above the Pacific. Minutes later, the destroyer erupted in flames, its carcass falling into the ocean. Humanity had destroyed its first warship. The message was clear. Earth was not conquered. The Zytherons grew frustrated. Their empire had never faltered. Yet here, on a single backwater world, they bled day after day. In response, they unleashed brutal reprisals, orbital strikes on cities suspected of harboring resistance, mass executions in the camps. But instead of crushing the humans, it hardened them. Every death fueled vengeance. Every atrocity turned survivors into fighters. And so, from every ruined continent, humanity rose. No longer a scattered insurgency, but a global movement. Networks linked continents. Commanders coordinated operations. For the first time since the invasion, humans spoke not of survival, but of victory. In a broadcast hijacked across every alien channel, a voice rang out in a dozen languages, unified in defiance. We are not slaves. We are human. And if you come for Earth, expect hell. The galaxy was listening, and so were the enslaved worlds of the Zytheron Empire. Possible that the Dominion could be defeated. But for Earth, the war was far from over. Humiliated, the Zytheron High Command dispatched a fleet unlike any seen before. A final hammer blow meant to erase humanity from existence. Hundreds of warships emerged from the void, bristling with weapons, descending upon a wounded planet. For many, it seemed the end had come. Yet Earth had been preparing. In hidden bunkers beneath mountains, engineers had cobbled together a fleet of their own, captured shuttles, refitted freighters, even orbital debris welded into crude battleships. The captured destroyer, christened Defiance, led the flotilla. It was a fleet of desperation, unpolished and fragile, but it was theirs. On the ground, every city became a fortress. Streets were rigged with explosives. Skyscrapers were hollowed into sniper nests. In fields and forests, civilians trained with weapons as old as muskets and as new as hybrid plasma rifles. The world itself had become a trap. When the Dominion descended, they met not a broken species, but a planet ablaze with defiance. The skies above Earth turned into firestorms. Human ships, outnumbered 10-1, hurled themselves at the fleet. Suicide runs tore holes in alien formations. Improvised railguns ripped through shields. The Defiance dueled 3 cruisers at once, its human crew bleeding and dying at their consoles but refusing to yield. On the ground, the fighting was worse. Alien troops poured into cities, expecting swift conquest. Instead, they found every street a battlefield. In London, resistance fighters collapsed bridges, burying entire columns of enemy walkers. In São Paulo, swarms of drones armed with explosives dove from rooftops, detonating amid patrols. In the deserts of Nevada, children and elders hauled ammunition to fighters dug into the rocks, refusing to abandon the front. The Dominion had come to exterminate. Instead, they drowned in blood. And then, something unexpected happened. As the battle raged, transmissions flooded in from across the stars. Slave species, once thought broken, had risen. Inspired by humanity's defiance, they struck their overseers, sabotaged their fleets, and set fire to their chains. The Dominion, stretched thin, faltered. Its empire trembled. On Earth, the final turning point came when the Defiance, burning and crippled, rammed into the Dominion flagship, detonating in a blast that shattered the alien command structure. Leaderless, panicked, and bleeding, the great fleet broke apart. Silence followed. For the first time in millennia, the Dominion had been defeated. Billions of humans had perished. Entire cities lay in ash. But Earth still stood. Scarred, yes, forever changed, but free. As survivors gathered in the ruins, a message was sent to the galaxy, carried on every frequency the Dominion once controlled. They came for Earth. We gave them hell. And now, we fight not just for us, but for all who dream of freedom. The war was no longer Earth's alone. It had become a revolution.